I recommend that you test and prepare as much as possible, weeks in advance, months in advance, whatever you can do. Like a lot of our stuff, since it's such a low budget, we don't really get a chance to do much testing or preparation. It's kind of like, here's what we want. See you on the shoot day. Hopefully it all works. But when you can test and prep, that's super helpful, because when you get on set, something's probably going to go wrong with the practical effect. It just happens, whether you test it in the air conditioned building and then you're shooting in 100-degree weather and it can change, or like the hose has got a hole in it, or, the pump won't work, or there's no electricity, everything's broken. I don't know. So something always kind of happens. You just need to prepare for when you're doing your shoot schedule as well, add some more time in there and just find a really good team.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Texas Film in Focus, the podcast that highlights why Texas is such a vibrant film community that breeds great stories and highly skilled talent. I hope you guys liked the last episode. I know it was much shorter than previous episodes, and that's the goal. The goal is to get you the info quicker, to be a little bit more focused. And let's see, another thing I should say too is I'm trying something new with the audio, and I'm kind of sick right now. So, okay. Done is better than perfect. Okay. I'm sure my voice might sound a little bit different, but whatever. That's where we're at right now. Okay. So yeah, I think you guys are really going to like what we do here. So a couple of months ago, Fantastic Fest happened here in Austin. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity for me to connect with some filmmakers who are in town for the festival and talk to them about their films, their experience. So you can kind of think of these two interviews in this episode as almost an extended Q&A during a film festival, right? So you'll hear from a director of a short film and a DP of another short film. And I think they're actually both very different in terms of the conversations we have, but ultimately it really highlights the talent that's coming to Fantastic Fest and these kinds of festivals that are coming out of Texas. So, more voices from more filmmakers, something that I really wanted to make sure that I was doing this season. So I'm going to stop rambling now because it's just a matter of time that I lose my voice. So I've got to record this and get this over to the editors. But the first interview is with Chris McEnroy, who's an Austin-based writer-director of movies and ads. His horror comedy short films have played at prestigious genre festivals around the world, including South by Southwest, Fantasia, Fantastic Fest, and Sitges. I think that's how it's pronounced, Sitges. His film Guts was nominated for the 2023 Fangoria Chainsaw Award for Best Short. He is hoping his next project will be his first feature film, a horror comedy with werewolves. He loves werewolves. He also loves dipping chips in dip. I know you've been in Austin for like 19 years. Your catalog of film is really specific to like the horror genre and like pretty gory horror comedy. I guess that intersection of comedy and horror. So can you talk a little bit about how you define that for yourself and how you found that space in your time being a filmmaker?
Yeah, so I went to film school and I was making a bunch of different genres, just testing things out, trying to find my voice. I even made like a Christmas family comedy, which I'll never show anybody. When I was growing up, I was into the horror comedies like Evil Dead, American Werewolf in London, stuff that had really gory practical effects that were just kind of comedies but had horror elements. And after just practicing and trying a lot of different short films, I think that I found my voice, and what I really enjoyed was doing these horror comedies with gory practical effects. After just kind of making one and then seeing it with audiences and festivals, I just kind of got addicted to people laughing and also cringing and groaning because it's so gross. And that's why I just continue to keep in that space of horror comedy.
Yeah, the grossness definitely comes through. How have you been able to use the practical effects to your benefit in like the storytelling aspect and that timing for comedy?
Yeah, I think that the effect needs to have a purpose. Like it still needs to further the story in some way. Like if I kill a lot of people, but it's for a reason, and somehow it's not evil. Like, I don't know, like a Saw movie and everybody's dying. You're like, oh God, I feel bad for these people or whatever. And this is kind of like, oh, that was funny and somehow charming. But I think setting it up kind of like a joke where you have a setup and then the punchline. Because if you can surprise somebody with a gore effect, I think it works better because it's unexpected. So I guess for an example, like in Guts, I'm assuming that everybody has seen it. When he eats his own guts, there's a reason for it. Yeah, spoiler. It's very gross, but there's a reason, like he wants to become like everybody else, get his guts inside of his body. So stuff like that where I can make it gross, but still have a purpose.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those of you who haven't seen Guts, you can watch it online.
Yes.
It's very accessible and short. It's, 8 minutes,
Exactly.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I watched that one today and I'm like still thinking about it. I'm like, oh, that must have been so gross. And your lead, Kirk, y'all have been collaborative partners for a long time now, right? Can you talk a little bit about that relationship and how that's evolved over time too?
Yeah, so I went to UT as a grad student for film, and I was actually his TA in a class.
Oh, cool.
When he was in undergrad, and I was like, this dude is so funny and awesome. I just need to latch on to him. And so I put him in the lead in Bad Guy Number 2, which was in 2014. And we've worked together in pretty much everything since then. And he was really big in the improv scene in Austin as well. So he would have a lot of people that he would work with that we could kind of combine in the short films, like Carlos Larada. He's been in everything I've made.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kirk missed one. We forgot about the zombies. So those guys are really good back and forth with improv. And I don't know. I'm able to write for Kirk. I feel like I know what I would want to get out of him and what he can bring to the table as well. He's just got that lovable thing about him. Even if he's like, I don't know, like in death metal, he's kind of a jerk. But you still kind of like him and wanted him to succeed.
Yeah. He's got great comedic timing too. And I think that's kind of difficult when you're also dealing with practical effects and, a lot of these kind of very physical circumstances that you have to adapt to. So the humor still comes through. So I'd like to dive a little bit into your festival experience. I know you've got, a ton of shorts under your belt. You're here at Fantastic Fest. So tell me, how does Fantastic Fest stack up to the other festivals that you've attended?
Oh man, I don't know if I want to compare festivals. I could talk about my experiences with South by and with Fantastic Fest because we had a short film play at South by this year, and now called "We Forgot About the Zombies," and now we joined a cult playing at Fantastic Fest, and they're both like very, very well known and prestigious to play in, and you get to go and have a fun time and meet other filmmakers. And the thing I like about Fantastic Fest is it's a complete genre festival, so it's kind of my people all the way around. But South by Southwest also has like midnight shorts and midnight sections. So those are my people as well.
Yeah.
And Austin Film Festival, I've never played, but they have a midnight section as well. So I think Austin is just like a great mecca of film festivals with those three and some other ones as well. But it's fun to travel around to these festivals and around the country when I can. So, it's pricey to go to these things. So you kind of got to be picky and choosy. But I always have a good time. And the demand for South by and Fantastic Fest, they sell out, which is amazing and fun. Like, oh my gosh, all my screenings are sold out. And it's fun too because it's the general public audience that goes as opposed to a festival where it's just kind of all filmmakers that go and sit in the audience and judge you and judge each other. But I like to hang out with the cool people who wouldn't judge that and be more supportive, obviously. But I just like that it's general public that fill up the seats so you can kind of really get a good vibe for how the movie's working.
Do you feel like you've found your audience over this period of time? And do you have people who are following you like a cult? We'll get into the cult part later, but
I wouldn't say they're like a cult, I guess, but I feel like I do have fans and people, since I keep making so many shorts, I kind of I'm recognizable, I guess, in some way because I play some festivals and it seems like people are kind of look forward to what I'm making next.
Yeah.
And reach out and hey, can I see a screener possibly for consideration? No one's ever like, hey, I'll play it, just send it to me. There's always like, can you send it for consideration?
Yeah.
Well, yes, because you're asking for free. So I don't have to pay anything.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's another thing. And you mentioned too, how expensive it is to go to other festivals and the submissions and stuff. And that's something that's really come up a lot for me, like how limiting festivals are. Just like it's not as accessible as you would think for filmmakers. So I feel like that theme just continues to pop up. Like things are so expensive submission wise, going to attend. Because honestly, that's my favorite part about festivals. When you go to a screening and there's a Q&A, or you can meet the filmmakers, talk to them about their work. I mean, obviously that's what I'm doing here. You know, like that brings so much value to the festival. So it's like festivals should really... There's my PSA. Like festivals really need to make this more accessible for filmmakers.
It seems like, I don't know for sure because I've never made a feature, but festivals are more inclined to pay for flights and hotels and things for feature filmmakers compared to short film.
That's the part that I think is still really annoying to me. I'm like, well, how are we doing this? It's like, come to this party, but also like pay for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're the guest to our party, but front some cash.
Totally.
So let's talk about your film. We Joined a Cult. It stood out to me because I'm obsessed with cults in general. So it stood out to me and I was like, this has got to be like a comedy. Cause like, I doubt this is going to be like some kind of scary, gory, anything about a real cult. So tell me about what you like, the idea around the cult aspect of things and kind of pairing your style of horror and comedy.
Yeah. So I have a short film called We Summoned a Demon. And then I made a short film called We Forgot About the Zombies. And so I thought I had to make a third one to make a trilogy of we titled short films.
Yeah, a full sentence short film.
We did a thing trilogy, or someone said the trilogy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But so I was basically just it's interesting. It's kind of like the 70s where the movie posters, they just laid a bunch of movie posters out and then that one looks good, make that movie. Then they go write it and make it. So this one, the title came first.
Cool.
The title came first because I put some creative constraints on myself just because I crowdfunded the last 4 shorts and I didn't want to this time just because I feel like I've asked people for enough.
Yeah.
And so to keep it cheap, I said I'd have to have only 2 actors, 1 location, in the daytime, in the outside, because all the blood spill, and 3 or 4 pages in the script. So putting that on me and then writing it, just kind of helped keep it cheap and doable. Also had to be able to be shot in 1 day. So we shot it all in 1 day. But I was talking on social media to something about like, oh yeah, I should make a third one. And one of my friends put some titles in the comments like, oh, here's some examples. Oh, We Joined a Cult. Actually, I could really make something out of that because it'd be 2 guys like in the woods and maybe 1 or a few other cult members in the woods as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that happened. And then of course I have to add kills.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just have 2 actors. I needed to add more so I could have more people to kill.
Yeah. So you basically created this like almost like crowdsourced challenge for yourself of like, here are my parameters. Let me work within those parameters, but then still have my voice come through. And you're playing at a festival. So like, that speaks a lot, I think, to your voice, you know, like your vision. Is a feature film on the roster? Is that something you want to do?
It is something I want to do. That's the ultimate goal. It's just taken a long, long, long time for me to be able to do it. And I still haven't been able to do it. But it's all about, for me, it's if I can find the money, it can happen. So it's just been a long journey of trying to get this werewolf movie made. But in the meantime, I'm writing something that's cheaper that I can maybe do, you know, in Austin with friends for less money, or maybe I can just kind of raise it myself.
Yeah.
Because the werewolf movie is a horror comedy. I don't know if people are just thinking that horror comedy doesn't make money, so they kind of pass on it a lot. But you know, I have some friends who are trying to help me get it made, and it seems like it's getting close.
Yeah.
So it's possible it could happen soon.
I don't want to ask too much about it because I know probably there's, you know, you want to keep things under wraps. But can you tell us anything about this new idea?
It's basically a feature version of We Summoned a Demon, the short film. So it has the 2 guys, Kirk and Carlos, and they they're both in the suburbs. They're dads. In the short film, they're like slackers, just trying to like summon a demon to get a date with Brenda. They just want to be cool. This one's more like they accidentally stumble upon a ancient vial of blood that in their backyard when they're building a shed for And, one's divorced, one's got a family. It's kind of like The Burbs, but with an accidental demon summoning. Yeah. So it's a horror comedy, and then there's probably got to, there's got to be a really cool demon design, which that helps just kind of keep it cheap instead of a bunch of werewolves or just one demon.
Yeah.
And then there's a group of 7 of them who will do the summoning. So that means I could kill 5 of them in a really cool way. Final Destination style, maybe.
Yeah.
One at a time. So that's like 5 really good kills, 1 demon, and then that'll help keep it cheap. Because when I make these short films, there's so much gore and effects that I can only get 3 minutes of screen time out of a day of shooting because we have to just take our time to do all these effects.
Yeah.
So like the werewolf movie has a gore scene or a kill like every 3 pages, so it's the amount of time that it would take is what the money is really.
So going back to the practical effects and everything you've learned for people who are looking to incorporate more of that into their filmmaking practice, what is your advice for people with this very like messy type of endeavor?
Yeah. I recommend that you test and prepare as much as possible. Weeks in advance, months in advance, whatever you can do. Like a lot of our stuff, since it's such a low budget, we don't really get a chance to do much testing or preparation. It's kind of like, here's what we want. See you on the shoot day. Hopefully it all works. But when you can test and prep, that's super helpful because when you get on set, something's probably going to go wrong with the practical effect. It just happens, whether you test it in the air conditioned building and then you're shooting in 100-degree weather and it can change, or like the hose has got a hole in it, or, the pump won't work, or there's no electricity, everything's broken. I don't know. So something always kind of happens. You just need to prepare for when you're doing your shoot schedule as well. Add some more time in there. And just find a really good team.
Yeah. Who's your team? Tell me about your team.
So the last 2 shorts was a guy named Sergio who lives in San Antonio, and he was on the show on Sci-Fi Face Off. So he's really, really good. And he worked on Guts as well. We just kind of have a great working relationship and try to hire him as much as we can.
Yeah.
And, very talented. Before that, it was Eric Zapata, who also is in Austin and was also on Sci-Fi Face Off. So he did all the effects for Death Metal and designed the demon, and we summoned a demon and the effects there too. But you just like to kind of find as many effects people as you can that you have a good working relationship with, because they're in high demand. Practical effects are booming.
Yeah.
There was a time when it was all digital, but now it's kind of on a comeback.
Yeah.
Or people are willing to do it that way, and it's so much better. It looks better to me, and it's more fun to shoot. It's more fun to shoot to like gather around and watch a head explode on set rather than like shoot it on the green screen and then see it months later.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was watching Guts, I was like, this is so gross. What a good job. You know what I mean? Like I was like, ew, but also cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so great that you've been able to find that kind of talent here. Were you just like watching the show and you were like, let me cast everybody who I can?
No, it's just a weird coincidence because we had a good effects artist, Nora, on Guts, who was also on that show.
Whoa.
So I think it's just like, these people who are up and comers or established even because they've been on the show years and years ago, they just are out there wanting to do stuff.
So your screenings are still coming up. You haven't had your screenings yet. What are you looking forward to this week at Fantastic Fest?
I'm looking forward to our screenings because it's the world premiere of We Joined a Cult. So I haven't seen it with an audience yet.
Cool.
You and I just watched it. Yeah. So you're my first audience.
Oh my God. I feel so honored.
You just had the world premiere in your studio with Buster the dog.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that, to see, what works, what doesn't. I don't know. I think most of it will work because just when I show it to people, they're laughing. So
yeah.
But that's, like I said, I'm kind of addicted to that. It's almost like I need my fix of the audience laughing and stuff. And then looking forward to seeing some movies and just, seeing a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while. I'm just people that you meet on the festival circuit in the horror genre, and people are pretty cool and just fun to talk to and hang out. Even if you don't make it into a movie, the highball's right there. So you can hang out with people outside too. And the theaters are renovated.
Yeah.
They have nice, comfortable recliners now. I was in a couple movies last night and it was so cozy.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't have to go under the table anymore.
Oh my God. How did we go that long going under the table? Like that was like acceptable to us? Like why was that a thing?
It was, yeah. And then you could tell when people weren't used to the draft house because they were like, excuse me.
Yeah.
So walk down the aisle. No, the rules are you go under the table.
Yeah. It's like, we're all just agreeing to touching these sticky floors.
Yeah. Or sitting on it, like hitting your head on the table or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a rite of passage basically. But yeah, the new updates are awesome. I was there a couple of weeks ago when like there was still construction and stuff happening. And I was like, Fantastic Fest is happening soon. Like what are they going to do? But it was nice and cleaned up this weekend. So I was like,
it was cool. They made it look like the Shining Hotel.
Yeah.
You walk down the hallway and there's doors that say room 237. They added a new theater.
Yeah.
I think they were calling it Theater 10, but on the marquee in the door, it says room 237. So, and they still have the Shining carpet. And I love the Shining. Yeah. So it's just cool to be in that space.
Yeah. I just saw the Shining. When was it? I guess it was last summer or this summer. At the Paramount, and that was crazy to see it on such a big screen. Yeah. I've only seen it, at home and on my TV.
I took some inspiration from that for Guts. There's those really long, slow zooms with just the drone. So I thought, and you can really get in Nicholson's head when he's like just sitting there and the camera zooming in. So I thought if I could do that with the Guts guy, just kind of get in his headspace, and he's living in this horror of his guts hanging out of his body for like 35 years of his life. Yeah. And I think it worked because you really kind of connect with him in that way. Yeah. So thank you, Kubrick, for letting me have that.
Yeah. And there's no explanation as to why his guts are outside of his body. No. Everyone just accepts it. It's just kind of like a normal thing. So you've done a great job of like creating this weird world where people are like, okay, suspension of disbelief. I'm just jumping into it.
Yeah. Just start right away. That's what we do. Like with the movie, just show the guts right away. And you're like, okay, I'm in. What's going on? Yeah.
It's just like weird enough where you're like, okay, I've accepted it.
Yeah.
Letting it happen.
I think it would be so fun to make a series out of that character, like put him in different situations every week. Like if he goes on a little beach vacation and he can't do anything because he doesn't want to get sand in his guts.
Yeah. I mean, watching it, I was like, ew, what other gross things can he do? You know, like the girl running into him and yeah.
Oh, Sydney. She's amazing. She's a local actress as well.
Yeah. Is she in other films of yours?
Not of mine, but of the producer, Chris Phipps, has a company called Garth Manor, and they've made some stuff with her, and they're making a horror anthology feature right now.
These anthologies are starting to become really popular. I know there's one playing at Fantastic. I have a couple of friends who are working on one too. Seems like really interesting, collaborative kind of thing.
I was part of one called Scare Package where they reached out and I made a short film for it. I don't know if you saw that one, but it was a horror comedy anthology. So
cool.
I feel like I fit right in there.
Yeah. Were they all like separate storylines and everything, or was there any kind of like cohesive?
There was a connecting story that one of the creators directed that was in a video store. I think they shot it at Vulcan before it closed. And he kind of connects the stories by either putting in like a videotape and showing, you haven't seen this, or something like that. And then they would cut to the short stories. I think there was like 6 of them. So, but Kirk and Carlos were in that too. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out for that, because Kirk melts into a pile of goo, and we basically buried him halfway up to his chest for like a whole day. And I kept saying, hey man, you can get out for a little while, but he was just in Zen mode.
He's like, I love this.
He's like, I think he was just so uncomfortable. He didn't want to move and have to get back in that position.
Yeah. It's like more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah.
You definitely should do a supercut of all of your favorite, like kills, gory things. I feel like that would be really.
I should. I have an older one kind of like that on my Vimeo page. It's like my directing reel, but it's mostly just gory stuff.
Yeah. Like, let me just pick my favorites.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Let's see, what else? Is there anything you want to talk about? Your process? I don't know, writing? Anything you're really kind of excited to just talk about and share?
Well, I could tell you that fun story about the shoot.
Yeah.
Kind of fun. But so I was going to buy white cult robes, but I just knew with all the blood that I'd have to buy a lot for a reset. Well, I just got these super cheap ones, on Amazon because of my budget, obviously, but they had different colors.
Great. Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to get black in case they're, I I don't have to buy as many because blood will probably hide on there and I won't have to reset.
Yeah.
But because of that, we did have to reset a few times. And so during lunch, we took those robes and put them in a bucket of water and just kind of washed them out and then hung them on a truck to dry, which it was like 105 outside in the summer in Austin, and they dried like in 2 minutes or whatever. But you know, some remnants of the blood stayed there, and ants were really liking this blood. And so we didn't know yet, but Kirk puts the robe back on and he's like thinking he was getting bit and like, you know, hitting himself, and he lifts his robe out and there are ants like biting him. Oh my! And he's allergic to ants.
Oh no!
And he forgot his EpiPen at my house.
So that kind of allergic to the point where he needs to have an EpiPen.
Yeah. So we were all like super nervous. Luckily, like they just kind of welted up.
Yeah.
But I just feel like we didn't learn our lesson in the scare package segment, because he's buried up to his neck. There's blood everywhere, and there's ants on that floor. And he forgot his EpiPen at my house that day too. Oh my God. And there was like, you know, some PAs basically just with brooms like sweeping the ants away in between takes. This poor guy. I just wanted to call that out, I guess, just because he's such a trooper for doing this stuff. And like, I don't know, I'm just very thankful for him to be in these movies with me, and also all the cast. They're all getting sprayed in the face with blood. They're all getting sticky.
Yeah.
They're having to like stay that way until we can do it again because of continuity.
Yeah.
It's in the heat. They're wearing robes. I mean, I just am so appreciative of all these people that make these movies with me. I just wanted to make sure to give them a shout out.
Even though someday you might actually kill Kirk by having all of these ants around.
Oh my gosh. I was so thankful that they just kind of welted up. They were still welted up the next morning, but they didn't cause them any issues.
Yeah.
Must have been weak ants.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this was great. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. I hope you guys are really excited to see his work, because it is so wild. I think for me, any intersection of comedy, horror, comedy, action, like I love that so much. So when I saw his work, I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to this guy about this, because it's so funny. And, you know, we talked a lot about the practical effects, which I just have so much admiration for, because I would never sign up to do something like that. Like my logical producer's brain is like, no, what a mess. That's a lot of money. What a waste of time. But it looks so good when it's done right. And Chris really has refined his craft. So take a look at the show notes. We're going to put links in there to things that you can see, and then be on the lookout for his film, We Joined a Cult. This next interview is with Andrew Parkerton. He is the DP of a film called Baba Yaga. And he came to my house, to my home studio, and Buster was in love with him. Like, he was crazy. So you'll probably hear his tags rattling around, which I know, rookie move, right? I'm a podcaster and I have my dog in the studio with tags on. Like, come on. But anyway, you all love Buster, so it's all good. I'm pretty sure I've cut out all of his thrashing, because at one point we had to stop. Like, we had to stop because he was making so much noise and needed so much attention, and he just loved Andrew so much. So I'm just giving you that heads up. Also wanted to give you some context here that at the time of this recording, the WGA strike had just ended, but the SAG strike was still happening. So we were kind of in that in between. So just to give you some perspective on where the timing was for the conversation, because that comes up in our discussion. So just wanted to say those two things at the top. Andrew Parkerton began pursuing visual storytelling through film photography. After realizing many photographic principles carry over into the cinematic medium, his knowledge propelled him towards cinematography. He studied filmmaking at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, during which he filmed a multitude of projects, including Sunset, Baba Yaga, and Callisto's End, all of which have received vigorous festival acclaim. Currently, Andrew is a director of photography for independent narrative and documentary short films, as well as an operator and assistant camera for clientele such as PBS and National Geographic. Andrew Parkerton is a fresh and talented new voice in the ever-evolving landscape of cinematography. And that last line could not be more true. I'm excited for you guys to hear this interview with Andrew Parkerton.
So it's been kind of a crazy past 6 weeks, because I moved back just home outside suburbs of Houston just to save money. And, I just graduated University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Mm-hmm. And I honestly kind of felt a little defeated. I I just first AC'd my first SAG feature film, and that was an awesome opportunity. Indie narrative, like through and through, and strike hits, and I felt like it kind of clipped my wings a little bit. And that momentum, I felt a little ashamed going back home. And I was like, whatever, I'll bartend, I'll make do, save up money, and then go to the big cities, blah, blah, blah. And turns out I've been pleasantly surprised to get a lot more opportunities than I thought. So actually, my last short I shot in Austin, the budget was like $3,000, right? I shot a project, ironically, actually on the same camera that we used for Baba Yaga. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it cost us like $3,000, right? For 8 days of shooting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, in LA, 3 days of shooting, it was like $15K.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting. Like, obviously I think both films have their own merits, and I look fondly back on both of them, but it's interesting that like we were able to tell such a lot more complex story that was kind of multiple characters and a lot bigger ideas. And I think it's going to be really interesting with things like TikTok, Instagram, Tubi, like a lot of these more accessible platforms, and people aren't as concerned about your big, just like, I don't know. I think barriers are coming down and obstacles are coming down. So I think different cities like Houston, like Austin, like even Dallas, like I think all three of those, it's like they have their own strengths.
Yeah.
So coming together and and I think also I'm still trying to do my due diligence and figuring more about the Texas Film Commission, figuring about more of our local vendors, trying to create relationships with our local rental houses and finding good crew. Cause I think, I don't know, as someone who's back after 4 years of being not in Texas, I'm trying to just hit the ground running. And I think, and this is a great way to start. And again, thank you so much for having me on. And
of course. Thanks for taking the time. I know, festival time is always crazy. This is my first year screening for Fantastic Fest. So I screened for several other film festivals. And it's a really great kind of way for me to, I guess, like improve like my film literacy and like, I don't know, I'm inspired also by independent filmmakers and to like see people, grow in their careers and things. So I was really happy to join the fantastic team this year, but I haven't had any time to go. So that's why I've also, enjoyed connecting with the filmmakers. And I'm like, so let's jump into your film, Baba Yaga. Am I saying it right?
Yes, Baba Yaga.
So I watched it today. It was so cool to watch. So I was surprised to see that it was a college film.
Thank you.
And I don't want to put it in that category necessarily, but the first thing you see is like North Carolina School of the Arts, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, University of North Carolina.
University. Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It's like, my parents just got it right recently.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's almost like a bias where it's the first thing you see and then it goes into this like super rich, visually exciting film.
Thank you.
Can you kind of give us the log line, tell us a bit about the film and then what your kind of vision was around the film?
Log line. I haven't thought of that in such a long time. I'd say the log line is a Russian folktale witch concocts a mysterious concoction while hijinks ensues.
It's so kind of visually appealing and like very specific in the vision. How did you kind of get there and talk a little bit about the like visual aspects? Because I know like production design, art direction, even some of the like practical effects and things are just not something that you see at a college level. And I think that's why I brought that up too. I'm like, how is this happening at this level? And that's exciting to see to me,
And I think we were in this really, we were kind of in this perfect storm of our school, really, really prioritizes quality. We have a 50-foot soundstage with huge walls and grids, and we have 10Ks, 5Ks. We have the Arri Alexa Mini cook. Yeah, I could just keep on going about how many resources we have, but it's a super small school.
So top of the line equipment and not many people using it.
Yeah. And in addition, those there's a select amount of people that have the opportunity to use it even within that elite. So it is a really competitive program. And I think it breeds awesome portfolio materials if you're fortunate enough to get them. So I think I was in this really fortunate position to have had each year you get a thesis film. And I was following my junior year thesis. It was called Sunset. And it was similarly very production design. Like the production design was awesome. Una Miola, she was the production designer. You know, she killed it. We're great friends. And that kind of got me in talks for this other project. And there were 9 production designers, and one of them didn't get a thesis for their 3rd and 4th year. So she came to the dean and she was like, hey, I don't have any portfolio materials, any practicums. Like I'm leaving the school
with nothing
with
almost.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly. So also her faculty saw that and they advocated for her. That's a nice thing when you do have a smaller school. Your faculty really, you know, Bob Keane, he like designed Pinhead from Hellraiser, and he was like lead on Candyman, and like he was in Jabba the Hutt. So he had a really big special effects background. And at the time they were creating a new department literally just for special visual and special effects. So that's, you know, one of my close friends who designed the Baba Yaga costume and the makeup, that was her practicum for the year. So that a lot of people were putting in time and that was their main kind of focus. And I was lucky enough to just be approached, and how could I turn it down? And they told me about, okay, this was, I'd say May of 2022. They were like, we're going to be doing a full built set that moves. We're going to be doing miniatures. We're going to be using volumes in the Unreal Engine to make digital backgrounds. So I was blown away at all these resources. And due to some scheduling and just organizing, we had to push it back until the spring of 23. But I'm glad we did, because we were able really to take our time, figure out what compositions we wanted, really, fight for the best gear and really good crew. And it was a really interesting project because we were all of us were super different, because this wasn't a official project for the school, because you have 8 films slated. Yeah, it was this kind of interesting.
This was like a side project, but like utilizing the resources from the school. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this was, I wouldn't necessarily, it counted as a practicum, but it was only one person's designated practicum.
Okay.
So I was, again, fortunate enough to have my 4th year practicum and Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
So I'm walking away pretty, fortunate. And I definitely don't take that for granted. And it was really interesting to some camps were trying to limit the amount of resources and availability, and then others were really fighting. So it's this kind of push and pull of choosing our battles and really trying to make the best possible film. But I think we walked away all really satisfied.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was such a fun watch. And as I was watching it, I was like, this is perfect for Fantastic Fest. How has your experience been over the past week in going to the festival? And what's been like your festival experience in the past too?
Yeah, I think this is foreign to me, I'd say, because this is the first festival I'm attending.
Oh, cool.
And I actually have had, I've had one major short, actually the one I shot in Texas, that went to like 15 festivals, and I got my first cinematography award.
Cool.
But unfortunately I wasn't able to go. So it was just, a lot of it was scheduling and shoots, and this kind of worked perfectly. And it's also, again, something I'm super passionate about. I love horror. I love fantasy. If I can, talk to 1 or 2 directors or a producer and, maybe further that's a win. So yeah. I saw this as a really great opportunity. Also, I just haven't been watching movies. I'm desperate. Like my palette has been so I don't know. I think it's been really fun watching a lot of these movies, and it's been really inspiring. So I find that inspiring, being an indie filmmaker, being like, okay, they made this for pennies. It's like, what can we make for pennies? And it's been a lot of fun. I love Alamo. Like, who doesn't love going to the Alamo? And it's been a lot of fun because I'm in between shoots right now. So it's been nice to like disconnect and just kind of, watch some movies and meet some cool people.
Yeah, like be able to enjoy like a vacation, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Oh, festivals are my favorite thing. I'm so bummed I haven't been able to go this past week, but I was like, maybe I'll go to the closing night tonight, but I'm pretty tired.
It was really interesting when I interned for the Houston Cinema Arts Society. That was during COVID. So
what?
like that
what
was,
did you do?
I
How did you do that?
I don't recall exactly how we organized because I was all in the prep in the front end, like, getting screeners, getting people to watch them and rate them. So I don't remember, I believe, and correct, the record can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was like hybrid. So some I think were digital and I think few were in person, but it was really interesting to like be a part of the festival scene at such a strange time.
Yeah. When everybody was figuring it out. I mean, you go into these kind of already established institutions, organizations, and you're like, they know what they're doing. But yeah, I can't imagine after being impacted by COVID in such a like people-centric, event-specific type of thing.
So it was really interesting, I think. But it was a great opportunity to see like submissions and what they liked and what they didn't. Because I think that informed a lot of the films that I did and did not want to work on after that. The scripts and like, okay. And now I've been really, like if a filmmaker approaches me and they're trying to make a film and they want to, especially if they want it to be a festival piece, I asked like, what one or two are you really trying to headline for? Like, are you trying to go to Sundance or are you trying to like be a little bit more aware of who you're trying to send it to? Are you trying to send it to a TIFF? You trying to go to Slam Dance? You trying to go to mid-size? You trying to go to River Run? Like, I don't know. I think interning, really did help broaden my ideas of there are more than just 5 festivals.
So now that you're in Texas,
yes,
after this experience, what does your trajectory look like? What's next for you? Do you think you'll stay?
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting given 2 days ago, the strike just ended.
Yeah.
So I think we're still in a very interesting kind of season in the industry. I've been hearing a lot of rumors of if shows still desperately want to shoot it within the year, they might be going to warmer and more easy to work in areas than New York. And maybe not as much in LA, but they might end up outsourcing and going to places like Atlanta and Houston and Austin. And I don't necessarily know. We're only going to have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But again, I think right now I've been actually doing a lot more documentary work, which has been really interesting. And I think UNCSA gives us an amazing narrative portfolio. Awesome. I have 3 really solid films, Baba Yaga included, that I'm like, cool. Narrative is something I know how to do that, and I know how to do it fairly well. So just using different skills for documentary, just working with maybe 1 or 2 people on a team and just making a beautiful image and flexing kind of different muscles and just getting a wide range of diversity in my portfolio is what I'm really focused on right now. I kind of started early last year on a PBS show, and I really liked the work, and I thought it was really fulfilling, and I liked hearing people talk, and it was really interesting kind of unpacking those stories.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm humoring the idea of pivoting a little bit more towards doc, but we'll see. I think, again, I've only been in Houston for 6 weeks, so it's been really, a lot has changed within just the 6 weeks. So nonetheless, I'm really excited.
Oh, what a great time in your life to be. That's so cool. You've got a film on the festival circuit. You've got options. The strike just ended. So I feel like everybody is, the writer strike ended. The actors are still on strike. But I think that there is an optimistic air about all of this, considering, back to your point about, all of these other distribution channels, like the industry has just hit this very pivotal point where they've really got to be thinking, the big guys really have to be thinking about the new landscape, what the true expectations are from a labor perspective, but also the audience appetite, right? Audiences are looking for all kinds of different work and in different places now too. So it'll be an interesting next few years. And it sounds like you're ready to just kind of jump in and like adapt as things come.
I think I'm really, really fortunate, and I'm really blessed to have known I wanted to be a DP about like 17.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, I met a small group of filmmakers that became one of my first big friend groups. And, we would just make dumb short films. And then that, led to more dumb short films. And then eventually they became less dumb. And, eventually you're in festivals. And I think it's been really, really rewarding. And like nothing's more cathartic for me to just like be at monitor and see a beautiful image. And I'm absolutely addicted to that dopamine rush you get when, the lighting finally works and frame, the composition looks beautiful and then it's a great performance. And, it's not about my process. It's like, wow, I made an amazing moment. And I'm going to keep chasing that no matter, what's going to stop me. I'm going to keep chasing it. Cause I think that's, I was just on a shoot fairly recently. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And I just kind of had this moment. I was like, yeah, I was made for this. And I don't know if I want to abandon that feeling.
Anything you want to dive into before we wrap?
No, I would just like to thank Fantastic Fest. And I would like to thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming and good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right. At the end of these episodes, I'm so blown away. Like this never gets old. And I'm so happy that the series is back because I love hearing about the filmmaking process from the filmmakers themselves and to hear their two very different voices at Fantastic Fest who are, Texans with a lot of promise in their future of their careers. Like it's so inspiring. And for me, who's somebody who's not necessarily making films right now, it gives insight into, once I'm ready to jump back in, like I can do it. Right. So I'm hoping this inspires you too. If you're on the fence about filmmaking here in Texas, or if you, like Andrew, find yourself in Texas unexpectedly and want to find work and figure out how to really establish yourself in the industry here. But I hope these interviews are kind of helping you gain some perspective there. So thank you to Chris and Andrew for being my guinea pigs in my home studio with my new setup and my dog, and really opening up about their filmmaking process and giving a lot of valuable insights to our audience. All right. So yes, this is the end of the episode. I'm going to keep it short. So do follow us on Instagram. It's TFIF_podcast. I also started a TikTok. I don't know how much I'm actually going to be doing there, but, if that's your thing, follow me there, I guess. So that's the socials. Subscribe. If somebody sent you this episode and you really like it, I highly recommend going back to the previous episodes. So thanks again for listening and stay tuned for the next episode in a couple of weeks. I have a really great interview with somebody who we talked forever and I was only able to capture about 2 hours, but I'm going through, I'm slicing and dicing. It was a wide ranging conversation. So really trying to this will probably be a 2-parter that I slice up and dice up. So be on the lookout for that. Dear friend of mine, April Sanchez, who is a screenwriter. She's doing a lot of really cool stuff in the film world and also game writing. So that's coming up. And yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at sraelopez. That's SRAELOPEZ. Of course, follow the show, TFIF_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, check out the show notes. There will be lots of links to cool stuff. So really want to make sure that you're getting the resources. So those show notes are going to be there for you. Texas Film in Focus is produced and hosted by me, Samantha Ray Lopez, and special shout out to you guys, the fans, who have been sending me much love, lots of high fives after relaunching the series a couple of weeks ago. Y'all are the reason I do this. I know I said in the last episode that I do it for me, but I love this little community that we're building here. So yeah, see y'all next time.